And she says she was detained by ICE agents overnight, and she says they took everyone and then asked questions later.
At exactly 6:18 a.m. Eastern Time, federal officials confirmed what many inside law enforcement had quietly feared for years. One of the most fortified cartel operations ever uncovered on U.S. soil had been operating from inside the private residence of a senior police official. Detroit, Michigan, a city already carrying scars from decades of crime, corruption, and survival. But what agents would uncover behind the iron gates of a lakeside mansion would shock even the most hardened investigators. 2.1 tons of cocaine, $156 million in bundled U.S. currency, encrypted servers hidden behind false walls, and evidence pointing to a law enforcement betrayal so deep it threatened the integrity of an entire region. Officials would later describe it using one phrase: "This was not infiltration, this was occupation." And what you're about to hear only gets darker from here. At 4:32 a.m., long before the city stirred, Detroit's waterfront sat unnaturally quiet. A low fog drifted off the river. Streetlights reflected off wet asphalt. No traffic. No witnesses. Then movement. Unmarked SUVs rolled in without sirens. Black helicopters hovered just beyond audible range. Federal strike teams moved in silence. FBI, DHS, ICE, SWAT units operating under a joint task force, authorization signed weeks earlier under a sealed federal warrant. They weren't hitting one location. They were hitting 12. Within a 90-second window, synchronized teams breached a high-end waterfront mansion, 2 warehouse districts near the rail yards, an underground casino hidden beneath a shuttered auto plant, a logistics company operating as a front for cross-border shipments, and a fortified storage facility buried beneath a commercial parking structure. Flashbangs shattered the darkness. Steel doors buckled inward. Agents poured through hallways trained for resistance. Inside the mansion, suspects ran. Some barefoot, some clutching duffel bags packed with cash. One attempted to destroy a laptop before being pinned to the marble floor. What they found inside defied expectations. Vacuum-sealed cocaine bricks stacked behind climate-controlled panels. Weapons crates marked as industrial equipment. Hard drives concealed inside a private wine cellar. But the moment that froze, the operation came when an agent pulled back a decorative wall panel. Behind its servers, not personal computers, not home security systems, enterprise-grade encrypted servers, humming quietly inside the residence of Detroit's police chief. That discovery changed everything. By 7:11 a.m., the scene shifted. Inside a federal cyber forensics lab located several miles away, analysts stared at a digital map that refused to make sense. The operation had a codename already prepared: Operation Iron Veil. As encryption keys fell one by one, the screen lit up with nodes, hundreds of them. Shell corporations, ghost nonprofits, charity fronts registered as community safety initiatives, logistics firms moving automotive parts, restaurant chains laundering cash through franchised revenue streams. Money flowed outward like veins, from Detroit to the Southwest, to offshore, financial havens, then back again, clean and invisible. And at the center of it all, authorization credentials tied to one individual, a fictional police chief who had risen through the ranks, promising reform, transparency, and safety. Instead, investigators now believed he had transformed the city into a protected corridor for cartel movement, ensuring uninterrupted trafficking routes through the Midwest. One analyst finally said it out loud: "This isn't corruption." Another followed: "This is command-level collusion." Encrypted messages revealed patrol gaps timed perfectly for convoys. Traffic enforcement schedules manipulated weeks in advance. Internal warnings suppressed before raids could launch. Detroit hadn't been ignored. It had been engineered. And the next phase would expose just how wide the damage spread. As dawn broke, the command center came alive. A massive digital map covered an entire wall: Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, each marked with pulsing red indicators. 83 active targets. Federal leadership issued the order at 5:46 a.m. Hundreds of agents deployed simultaneously. Armored vehicles rolled. Black Hawk helicopters cut through the morning haze. River units secured shipping lanes. Desert labs weren't the only cartel infrastructure anymore. This was suburban, industrial, domestic. Luxury homes were breached. Transit houses cleared. Smuggling convoys intercepted mid-route. Inside one warehouse, agents uncovered chemical processing stations capable of converting raw cocaine into distribution-ready product within hours. Inside another child trafficking records. By noon, the arrests began stacking. Cartel lieutenant, financial intermediaries, logistics planners, and law enforcement officials whose names appeared again and again inside the servers. Weapons, cash, narcotics, communications hubs. Officials would later confirm. The underworld took more damage in 6 hours than in the last 6 years. But the operation wasn't over. Because buried inside, the seized data was something worse. Something that suggested this wasn't the endgame. It was only the foundation. Investigators soon realized the cartel hadn't just bought protection. They had built a parallel enforcement system. Internal police databases showed falsified schedules, shift reassignments, false overtime logs used to mask movements, judicial calendars adjusted, cases quietly delayed, evidence misfiled or destroyed. Some officers had been paid monthly, others per shipment, a few through properties, trusts, and offshore holdings. One veteran agent described the moment bluntly. We weren't chasing criminals. We were dismantling a shadow government. And as arrests continued, honest officers watched their own department fall apart. Some cried. Some resigned on the spot. Some stood silent as handcuffs closed around former commanders. Rebuilding wouldn't be quick. But the system had already been poisoned, and the data showed something even larger still forming. A continental-scale operation designed not just to move drugs, but to control territory permanently. And that realization would force federal leadership to confront a chilling truth. The system wasn't infiltrated. It was redesigned. Perfect. As the arrests mounted, analysts kept digging. What first looked like a regional betrayal soon revealed itself as something far more dangerous. Inside, the seized servers was a second architecture layer buried deeper, deliberately obscured. Routes. Not just city routes. Not even state routes. Continental corridors. Federal analysts zoomed out from Detroit, pulling back layer after layer until the map stretched across the United States. Truck fleets registered as agricultural contractors. Green energy grant vehicles moving without inspection. Port maintenance windows scheduled precisely during cartel shipments. This was not chaos. It was choreography. Every week, tons of narcotics moved through the Midwest under legitimate manifests. Way stations closed for repairs. Inspection scanners mysteriously malfunctioned. Cargo flagged as low risk by automated systems trained on corrupted data. One senior investigator summarized it in a single sentence. They didn't sneak through the system. They became the system. As federal forces expanded operations outward, the true scale of the enterprise became undeniable. Shipping lanes connected Detroit to East Coast ports. Rail hubs funneled products south and west. Distribution cells embedded inside suburban business parks and rural transfer yards. The cartel's strategy was brutally intelligent. Drugs moved disguised as auto parts. Cash moved as construction materials. Human trafficking records were hidden inside nonprofit adoption databases. And at the center of it all, plans. Long-term plans. Not months. Décades. Encrypted documents outlined a permanent headquarters structure. A leadership council insulated by political leverage. A rotating protection system ensuring no single official held enough power to expose the whole network. This wasn't a criminal operation anymore. It was a shadow state. And federal leadership now faced a terrifying reality. You can arrest criminals, but how do you arrest a system that rewrote the rules? Behind closed doors, emergency briefings stretched late into the night. Federal agencies debated escalation thresholds. Legal teams assessed constitutional limits. Military advisors outlined contingency scenarios never publicly acknowledged, never officially approved. Because if this network collapsed too fast, entire regions would lose enforcement coverage overnight. Power vacuums don't stay empty, and cartels thrive in the silence left behind. So the takedown continued carefully, methodically, surgically. Each arrest followed by a replacement. Each exposure paired with stabilization. But even then, the human cost continued to surface. In quiet interview rooms, honest officers broke down. Men and women who had spent decades wearing the badge learned their leadership had sold them out. Some realized they had unknowingly protected convoys. Others discovered their patrol schedules had been weaponized against their own communities. A veteran officer stared at the floor and whispered, "We weren't failing the city. We were being used to destroy it." Families learned the truth through news alerts. Children saw their parents' names flash across screens, labeled corrupt official. The damage was irreversible. Trust once broken does not regenerate easily. And across Detroit, the consequences rippled outward. Neighborhoods flooded with narcotics. Overdose numbers spiked. Communities already struggling now faced the aftershocks of betrayal layered on grief. This wasn't an abstract crime. It was personal. As the final phase concluded, federal officials issued a rare internal assessment. The cartel's greatest weapon wasn't violence. It was access. They didn't need shootouts when they controlled permits. They didn't need intimidation when they controlled budgets. They didn't need fear when ambition and silence did the work for them. Power, unchecked, becomes invisible. And invisible power is the hardest to fight. In the weeks that followed, Detroit entered a reckoning. New leadership, federal oversight, audits that would take years to complete. But scars remained, not just in institutions, but in families buried by fentanyl, in neighborhoods hollowed out by addiction, in children who never understood why help never came. The final briefing ended without applause. No victory speeches, no celebrations, just a quiet acknowledgement that democracy does not collapse overnight. It erodes slowly, through deals, through silence, through ambition left unchallenged. And as the lights dimmed in the command center, one line remained on the screen, a line no one could argue with. Power doesn't always arrive with guns. Sometimes, it arrives with a badge, a keycard, and the decision to look away.